Shabbat Shalom and welcome to the live blog from Adat Yeshua Masonic Synagogue here in Norwich once more, and we're up to, of course, the portion with Pinchas this week. It's a really important portion because it demonstrates actually the zeal of one man who is determined to uphold the righteousness of Torah, or so it seems, and of course runs into a situation to do what he feels needs to be done, becoming judge and jury, everything in one, even though Moshe is standing there and apparently at that point doesn't do anything. And it's a fascinating situation for us because it raises all kinds of issues. You know, Pinchas literally is the one here who is creating division. I say almost literally by his actions, he's creating a division. And what he's actually saying at that point is, you are an out group. Now, we can look at what was happening there and we recognize that that was wrong, that it was sinful in terms of what the people were doing and so on. And yet there's a zeal in people to say, yes, but you are in and you are out. I'm going to make the decision and we do this. We do this. And we tend to do this quite a lot, actually. It's not just when people are in sin, it tends to be when they hold different opinions to us. In fact, really anything they don't like. It can be cultural, it can be iconic and totemic things, which in our culture are often lifted up as high as if they were morals and righteousness and sin. And there's a blend and a real sort of a mixing up of ideas and concepts which so often go on here. And we make decisions and you're out. That's it, you're out. We love to do it. And yet, really historically, within Judaism, even within Talmudic Judaism, that's not really been the pattern that we've upheld over the centuries and millennia, really. There's lots of teaching around this in Talmudic views and ideas about inclusion. And really, the idea really is if you're born a Jew, you are a Jew. You can't stop being a Jew. Doesn't matter what you believe, doesn't matter what you do. In fact, as we know today, there are atheist Jews and so on. And that has always been the case through history. And the Talmudic view has always been that you are included. Of course, I have to say, there is one exception to that rule, and that is if you're a Messianic Jew. And of course, if you're a Messianic Jew, then you're automatically excluded. We are pretty much the only case and the only example that we can show in all of this, which is pretty unfair towards us as Messianic Jews, and actually undermines that sense of real corporate inclusion as Jews who believe in Yeshua and part of Israel and part of Judaism, but we are cut out. But it's a bigger issue, I think, which is going on around here as well. So when people today talk about Judaism, what they often mean by that is rabbinic Judaism, Orthodox Judaism. You see it in the school textbooks, in anything else you read on the internet. If there's one picture of things, we tend to look at the gowns and the clothing and everything. We tend to think that is what Judaism is, the locks and the tzitzit and so on. And that's a shame in many ways, because actually when people think that that is Judaism, they're missing something. And in fact, it's taking, again, another dividing line, another line of division, which excludes so many people. If we think that rabbinic Judaism is the only form of Judaism, i.e. it is Judaism, we're not just excluding Messianic Jews, we're excluding Reform and Liberal and Masorti and Traditional and Reconstructionist and everything else in between. And that just simply isn't right. That is making a dividing line. That's sticking that spear in the ground again and saying, thus far and no further, this is what it is and nothing else. And we begin to exclude people. And Judaism's history actually has always been one of inclusion. And yet we see this again and again. We see this when there was that horrendous attack in America, and it was a Reform liberal synagogue that was attacked, and there were comments made that, well, they weren't real Jews. This wasn't an act of anti-Semitism. And of course, it took Netanyahu at the time to stand up and say, yes, we are all Jews, and this was an anti-Semitic attack. And it takes you to these kind of bizarre places if you allow this to do it. It excludes so many people. And we, in Messianic Judaism, haven't got the luxury of that kind of exclusion. Now, we are in many ways not that dissimilar to other forms of Judaism. We believe we are the way. This is the way that Shaul taught and so on, and we believe that we have the right form of Judaism. But we do not therefore exclude other Jewish people as being not Jewish or being outside the fold. We believe in the absolute covenantal covering for all Jewish people, regardless of what you believe, regardless of your practice, whether or not you practice at all. We in Messianic Judaism believe that that covenant is intact. You are Jewish if you either are born Jewish or you have undergone a conversion to become Jewish. The rest of it is open for discussion and debate, but we cannot start excluding people just because it doesn't fit us in that way. I believe the Masonic writings make that clear. I believe Judaism in general makes that clear. But the disturbing trends to really begin to exclude and ostracize others who are Jewish, genuinely Jewish, just because they disagree with us or don't believe in the same way that we do, that is a problem. We as Messianic Jews have a very particular view on Judaism, of course, as Yeshua taught it. And that is what we believe, that is what we live out. And of course, we want to share that faith, we share that way with our brothers and sisters in other forms of Judaism, of course. But we have bought into the lie that Judaism actually is rabbinic Judaism. That isn't true. That wasn't the way historically. Moshe was not a rabbinic Jew, nor was Abraham, and nor was anyone up to that time once you get to the early 2nd century when it began. These are historical developments, and anyone who researches and studies this will understand this to be true. Messianic Judaism was one of the competing fluidities of Judaisms of the 1st century, and one that has now been reborn in our more modern time as well. We stand foursquare within Judaism, the stream, the river of Judaism, arguing our case as Jews. But let us not start cutting each other out in this way. Let's continue to talk, continue to include, because that's always been the long-standing trend of what Judaism is. Shabbat Shalom. Have a wonderful Shabbat. May the Lord bless you. And we'll see you again next week. Bye-bye.